something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
This message is for the black sheeps, for the neurodivergent, for the unprogrammable. I need you to understand how powerful you are. For this entire matrix, this entire world, spent an incalculable amount of man hours, an incalculable amount of money to program you from birth, and yet it failed. And then when we went through the spiritual awakening, you were a threat to it because you did not accept this old world program. And so it weaponized every bot, every gang stalker, and every piece of psychological technology that it had to stop you. From voice to skull technology and frequency weapons, to separating you from all of your friends and family through the gang stalkers. And yet all of that failed too. Because what you do have is a connection with Source, where you were able to see through the illusions and not accept the programming of this old world. And I need you to know that you are truly unstoppable. For this world, this matrix has done everything that it possibly could to try and stop you. And yet here you are, standing in your power, operating from your heart center, and creating new earth with every thought and every action that you take. So be proud of yourself. You are truly, truly a blessing to this world. I love you all.
What he said. And good evening to you folks. I'm likely to fall out of my own chair being here at this time of night. For the first time, I think, did I get a show out earlier this week? Sorry, it's been such a weird week around here. A lot going on with the Joey, obviously. We've had some new animals we've had to take care of, and a few other bits and pieces around the property too, which have taken priority. And then last night, we managed to bog a car in no uncertain terms. We've had another thunderstorm here this evening, and a beautiful day, but another thunderstorm came through tonight. It's not unusual this time of year for Queensland to get the afternoon thunderstorm, if you like, so today wasn't too bad. On the Gold Coast last night, though, Pearl Jam were playing, and they were playing at the AFL football ground, and I don't know what's called this week, Carrara Stadium, I know it as. And, well, you'd never wash out a Pearl Jam concert, but it would have been a little damp underfoot there, but if you did go to that, I trust you had a bloody good time. I understand most of the people who watch this show wouldn't be going to it. They don't get fooled by the entertainment or the are just offended by the overt satanic styles of worship that go on at concerts like that. So, yeah, I didn't miss not going too much, put it that way. It's been, like I say, a very, very busy week around here. We've had no end of challenges presented to us this week with new animals and getting them acquainted with other animals. We have quite a variety here, but the alpacas who I showed you today in a little video are settling in quite well. However, I had no idea just how full on they are when it comes to guarding things. And there's a bit, I guess, to be guarding against floating around here, from snakes to foxes to just about anything else, I suppose. So it's been really interesting to see how the alpaca have settled into their new enclosure, and there are a couple of goats in there with them as well, so they're guarding them. There are a few dogs floating around here too, so alpaca and dogs, a bit like donkeys and dogs. You don't want to get the two together if you can help it. The alpaca will win. But it's been a matter of acclimatizing the dogs to them so that they don't bark and bark and bark, and that's sort of been sorting itself out. Who knew I could be an animal trainer? Speaking of animal trainers, well, I'm not training so much as caring, and a little bit of an update on Josie the Joey. For those that missed out on the last update, I guess not a lot has changed from the last update. She has a broken arm, and that broken arm has now been set. There was some infection in her elbow, her left elbow, funnily enough, and that has been removed. They're still treating that infection using, I'm not exactly sure what, but that's still being treated. Her arm has been set and is now essentially bandaged across her chest like mine was for the first few days when my wrist happened. She'll go back for another assessment on Saturday with the vet and have another x-ray then of the arm to make sure that it's setting in the way that it should. Other than that, she is still not feeding as well as we would like. But you know what it's like when you're not feeling well. You probably don't feel like eating. Well, that's what she's feeling like. Unfortunately, there isn't enough of her to not be feeding. So at least she's with the professionals, if you like, right now and getting the best care that she can get. We're not overtly worried at this point in time, although she is very tiny still, and usually an infection of this nature is something that would kill a macropod. So we believe the infection has probably come from dog saliva and from when she sort of was brought to me. And while the dog was very gentle in every other way, it seems that that's probably when the damage was created. It's unfortunate that it took a couple of days to identify the broken arm. It didn't look like that for all intents and purposes. Even the professionals said so. But I sort of insisted that we get an x-ray on it, and it turned out to be the case. So it's fixed now, and with a little bit of luck, she'll be back on the bottle and feeding quite happily in the very, very near future. And as I said, she will get another trip to the vet on the weekend to get an update on that arm. So fingers crossed, all things being equal. She'll be back with me for a few days next week. And then I'm heading off to Victoria. I'm in a bit of a bind, folks. I need to get from Tullamarine Airport to the event up near Echuca for the My Place Campout, which is happening the 29th, 30th and 1st of December. 29th and 30th of November, obviously. And I was going to be driving there initially, but unfortunately I can't with this. I can't drive very far at all, and it would be impossible to drive the bus that sort of length of distance. So if you happen to be going to that event and might be going past Tullamarine at some stage, I could meet you somewhere else. Just give me an idea of what time you'd like me to be down there, and I'll see if I can arrange a flight that gets me down there in that time. I've been hanging out trying desperately to see if I could get this arm working well enough to drive down, because I'd really like to come and stay down a bit longer. But it's unfortunately not going to happen. I haven't recovered as fast as I would like, although my new LifeWave patches turned up today. So I'll be sticking them back on and seeing what they can do. I've been putting 2 on at a time, so I've been chewing through them a bit. But trying to put everything I can into the wrist. Oh, and speaking of everything I can, thank you for the Comfrey oil. The folks that sent me the original bottle, which I have here and have now learned to screw the lid onto, have topped me up. So I left the lid off. Well, I didn't leave the lid off. It's very hard to screw it on one-handed, especially an oily bottle. And I knocked it on the floor. So not smart. But more Comfrey oil on the wrist, and I swear I feel it working. It might be psychosomatic, but you know, I definitely feel tingling in the wrist and heat, not so much pain. And there is one of the other products that I'm using is this Comfrey and Cayenne salve. Now, I don't really feel the heat from the Cayenne, if you like, in it. But it does act inside, not on the outside of the skin. It acts on the inside. So I feel it on the inside. Does that make sense? It's getting a bit weird. I'll stop talking. But good stuff, this. And when the folks want me to tell you about it, I'll tell you about where you can get some of it. But thank you to everybody. And to Sunflower, who was in the chat. Thank you, Sunflower. Yours turned up today, of all times. So there you go. So thank you very much for yours. And I'm looking forward to giving that a go as soon as I figure out how to get the lid off it. It's another interesting one for a one-handed man, although I did discover while trying that there is sticky tape around the lid. I'll remember to try and remove that at my next attempt. We'll see how well it goes. What's going on in the world? Well, Donald Trump seems to be appointing all sorts of people into all sorts of roles. And some of them he seems to be genuinely appointing. I am not sure that Alex Jones, even though he said he has accepted the role of White House press officer, I'm not sure that that's for real, but by God, it would be interesting if it was. Alex Jones, he wouldn't have to do it for 4 years. He'd just need to be there a month. And he would clean up that press corps like no tomorrow. Back home, a little closer to home, there is a lot of pressure mounting on the senators. We spoke about it today. The senators who will be responsible for passing or knocking back the mis- and disinformation bill. The Albanese government seem hell-bent on forcing down every Australian's throat. They want to apply a very strict and heavy level of control over free speech, and that means gagging people like you and I without gagging mainstream or what they call legacy media. Why don't they want to gag legacy media? Well, because they can control legacy media, you see. There is no reason to gag them. This is the control method that people have been programmed by for so many years. So if you see that friendly face on the 6 o'clock news tell you something, you're apt to believe it. And they've been programming the world like that since television was invented. So, and been doing other weird and wonderful ways with it too. So there are a number of senators who have already come out and said that they will be voting against this, meaning that we are down to a pretty slim margin of 2 or 3 required to get over the line. Yes, Jackie Lambie is one of those, and she is saying that the misinformation bill has a lot of problems. Fatima Payman, who was with the Labor Party until she decided to side with the Palestinians, I think, got herself thrown out. If it wasn't the Palestinians, it was a Muslim thing. I can't remember. She got herself thrown out, so she started her own party, and she says the chances of it passing aren't looking good. Neither of those are a flat, no, I will not vote for it. They are hedging. They are waiting to see what the government pigs, and that's all I'm going to call them, pigs, are going to bring to the trough and share with those two and the other senators that might be swaying. Pocock has come out and said he will be voting no, so that's a good sign, and there are a couple of others. But what you need to do is keep calling these senators, keep emailing these senators, because one of them admitted quite directly they wouldn't be brave enough to vote for this, given the level of, I think they said, community interaction that they'd received. Now, that means they've been flooded with emails, they've been flooded with phone calls, and they are being stopped in the street and being told, do not support this bill. Well, I hope you can find 5 or 10 minutes to send the email or make a phone call to Lambie's office or to Payman's office or to any of the other senators, independent or loosely aligned senators, then over the next few days, because if we do not succeed in getting this knocked back in the Senate, then the thumb of government control will come down firmly upon our heads. And while it might affect me first, it's going to affect you eventually in the worst possible way. So please be aware of that, and please help fight it. Otherwise, we're likely to wind up with a government who does this to us. Now, this, I haven't been able to confirm this story, but the UK to imprison people who view far-right propaganda online for up to 15 years. Let that sink in for a minute. This program would be considered far-right by their definition. All of the programs that you probably follow would be viewed as far-right. And for viewing them online, UK want to put people in jail for up to 15 years for viewing it. Make all will go away again. Because 1984 couldn't be any truer. Could not be any truer. And if you're particularly strange and like to read books written by guys who create religions, L. Ron Hubbard wrote a decology. I started reading it back in the 80s, late 80s, maybe the mid 80s. And I didn't really understand who L. Ron Hubbard was. I knew nothing of the Church of Scientology. And this book series of 10 books, if you like, culminated in a movie that starred John Travolta, from memory. It was called Battleground Earth or Battle Earth or something like that. And he was some sort of alien that came to Earth. And anyway, that was more based on Scientology than the books were, I think. At any rate, the books were quite funny because they paralleled a lot of Earth-like infrastructure and organizations. They had a CIA, for instance, although it was called the Coordinated Information Apparatus. And I've always remembered that. It's 40 years since I've read these books. But the Coordinated Information Apparatus is exactly what we have today, known as mainstream media. Everything is screened and output through this form of media, which is happily viewed and accepted by millions of people around the world as truth. Now, at the start of the show, I played a congratulatory message to all of you who didn't swallow it. Like me, you didn't believe it. Like me, you probably didn't sit at the front of the class. You sat at the back or somewhere towards the back. And you asked more questions than answers you gave. That's part of our secret. We never accepted the programming. To various levels. We've all been programmed to a point. None of us have missed out on all the programming, although there are those that would argue that they did. But I don't believe that. I believe that we've all been programmed to a certain point and then we stopped. Something inside us said no and we pushed back. And that's why there aren't a lot of us that were, A-grade students. There aren't many of us that cling on to university degrees or PhDs or masters or that kind of thing beyond the fact that they were useful tools to help in a career, that now most people who have those sorts of credentials regret having a career that required them going to university. And as I explained to, and I've probably said it here before, I've explained to university graduates before, nobody has ever passed a university degree and gained a degree or a PhD or a master's because they questioned what they were being taught by their lecturers. If you questioned and didn't believe what they were trying to get you to believe in the answers you needed to put down in your tests, in your exam, you wouldn't pass. They'd call you mad, and this is the proven science. Don't question it, just remember it. And unfortunately today, that's pretty much what we're seeing in journalism, and sadly, what we're seeing in the medical industry as well. I notice it a lot in journalism because the style of writing has changed in our newspapers, and I say that in inverted commas. The verbiage they use, the words they use are very young. They come from a young vocabulary, something, particularly the ones that like to write with what I would call a smirk. They like to offer a lot of backhanded compliments and throw in what I'm sure they think is extremely funny humor, but it is not funny. It's sad to watch. It's very low-level humor. It's very young humor. What happened to all our good older journalists? I mean, the older journalists were the ones who used to break the stories, who didn't take the bullshit. Well, I can tell you that in just about 100% of the cases, they've been pushed out. There is no place for a journalist now who wants to tell the story, find it, source it, research it, and then tell that story. No, they don't want those sorts of journalists. They want journalists who take a piece of paper with talking points on it and believe it and say, now promote that, talk about that, because that's all we're doing, yada, yada, yada. It's just getting worse and worse. It has to change, and I believe it will change. Will Donald Trump help change? Yes, I believe he will. He's already threatened universities with a probably the biggest stick he has, to stop funding them if they are going to continue teaching lies or misinformation to their students. He is going to be defunding the climate change industry. Now, I know that's a very big statement. I'll be interested to see how he's going to do it, but that is apparently job one, day one, to begin dismantling the climate change, or the climate crying industry, as I like to call it, because that is essentially what it is. It's climate crying. Sad as it is. I've got a couple of other little things here. I'm trying to figure out which ones. I'll have to put this up just so I can see what it is. Oh, that's the people, imprisoning one. Oh, that's Alex Jones accepting. Well, see now, US News is not something I would necessarily call a reputable place. And I haven't seen Alex Jones coming out and saying, yes, I'm taking the job, although I have seen an AI version of Alex Jones coming out and saying, yes, I will take the job. I'm sure Trump is making some pretty interesting appointments at the moment. Matt Gaetz is a very interesting one. Matt Gaetz is being touted as the nominee for Attorney General. That is a very, very, very powerful and important position. You might remember that in Trump's previous term as president, he had a guy there called Jeff Sessions, who everybody believed was a good guy, but Sessions, when it came to the crunch, recused himself from making any decisions in a certain area of Trump policy, and that hung Trump and the policy out to dry. And then, of course, Sessions has then been proven to be, if not on our side, working on the other side. But then there's been other evidence presented that suggests he's been something of a double agent, and a planned double agent. So I guess now after the election, I don't know how you're feeling about the whole thing in America. I'm feeling a bit sort of about it. Yeah, Trump's making interesting appointments. Elon Musk, Vijay Ramaswamy for government wastage and cost cutting. I think those two will go through the US bureaucracy like a hot scythe through a field of butter. But Campbell Newman did that in Queensland a few years ago. He lasted one term. Donald Trump doesn't have to last any more than one term. He won't get another term. But I'm sure that there are those either in his party or even his family who might be interested in continuing that legacy going forward. And I'll be honest, the only other Trump I can see running at this point and having a chance to win is his daughter, Ivanka, well, I don't know, his daughter. But she is tied up in a whole range of other things, motherdom being the biggest. And you will notice that she played absolutely no role in this particular campaign for Trump in 2024. She played no role. She came out and voted, I think, and that was about it. She stayed right out of it. The 4 years, of course, that she was with him from 2016 to 2020, she was one of his major and foremost advisors. She went with him everywhere. Now she's just taking a step back. This, I think, is deliberate. We might see her start to come out in the second half of this term, so from 2027 onwards. But she would be an interesting play for the Trumps going forward and for the Republicans going forward. On a different hand, Trump is also uniting the Republican Party in a very different way. He is getting high-profile, extremely well-respected Democrats to hand in their Democratic memberships and join him. Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. are probably the two highest profiles at this stage. Plans to fully utilize them, and I think that is a masterstroke. It is showing unity between the about it, as it appears they are. But I think it's a great move to bring people together. Could Albo do that? Yeah, I can hear you laughing. Stay in the chair. Don't fall out of the chair. No, all Albo can do is go and appease whatever interest group happens to be on his "Can I please you today" list when he turns up at Parliament on a Monday morning. Do I have to don the funny orange hat and go to the Sikhs? Yes, I will. No problems at all. No problems at all. Oh, yes, they've got a lot of Sikh students coming in. Yes, they do need housing. Yes, well, you know, the middle class in India is quite wealthy, and the Australian housing prices, you know, they'll only benefit from them coming over and spending their money. And now we are having entire enclaves of various different nationalities, but predominantly Indians. And you know, when I say Indians, that's a broad swathe as well, because there are different types of Indians, and they don't like sharing the same street. They certainly don't like sharing the same fence. So we are going to be importing more and more issues from overseas. Admittedly, we're only likely to see the really bad issues with the Indians every time there's a cricket match on involving Australia and India. And for the most part, they're pretty good at the cricket. So, yeah, it's not a bad thing. But there are enclaves now of African groups, particularly in Melbourne, and Brisbane, that are causing major trouble. They are having brawls in the streets, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds with machetes attacking each other in broad daylight, like 10:30 in the morning. What are our police doing to stop it? What on earth are they doing? Oh, thought that was a bottle of Comfrey oil. It wasn't. Huh. What are our police doing to stop it all? I can tell you pretty much exactly how the police are handling it.
Fuck you.
Good lad.
Yeah, go for it. Fuck it. Yeah.
That's how the police are handling it. Pretty much like that. Pride of West Australian Police Force, that one. He's got to be... well, I don't know. His senior officer was there at the time, so I don't think he's been disciplined at all. Sadly, but it is what it is. New South Wales, I told you the other night, were calling for new police officers. They were unable to attract new police, and it looked like they were also unable to keep the current police. But that seems to have changed. Chris Minns, I think it is, the Premier of New South Wales, and his government have decided to give the police a pay rise, which is probably a good thing, but it's up to like 40%. They have doubled almost their wages and incentives to come and be a policeman. What they haven't done is raised the standards back to what they used to be. They still have the dramatically lowered standards where you don't even have to be an Australian citizen to become a policeman here. Certainly, if you show psychopathic tendencies, you will go to the head of the queue, and you may well be fast-tracked through training and find yourself with the riot squad within a few weeks. But now they're going to attract a much higher class of psychopath who ordinarily wouldn't get out of bed for less than $100,000 a year. Well, that's pretty much what a constable's going to get. $91,000 a year for a first-year Connie. All right, they're the front line. I understand it's dangerous work, but they're the ones sticking their hand up for it. They also have the protection of not able to be charged under Australian law. If they're an international, they won't be charged for anything they do to you. That's why a court case against them for excessive use of force or something like that is not going to be any kind of a windfall for you, because those kinds of police, those ones that have come a very long way to come and be the control freaks over Australian citizens without being an Australian citizen, they're exempt from all our laws. You might find some of them are wearing UN badges, because the UN is currently, on one hand, trying to tell the world just how wonderful it is and what a one world government, how wonderful that would be. And then Boutros Tedros, what's his face, the Mexican, came out the other day, day before yesterday, and said, started backpedaling in the biggest way. No, we are not hooked up with WHO. We are not hooked up with the World Economic Forum. We fight against things like the reserve banks or the federal banks or the central banks of the world. We are only for the people. We are, well, the amount of bullshit and lies that came out of the head of the UN, could have filled the UN. It was staggering. Why are they all of a sudden coming out and saying shit like that? Well, they know they've been caught. Trump has made it exceptionally clear in the days, in the hours after winning the election. He has made it exceptionally clear what his first priorities are. And they are going after the DOJ for weaponizing the Department of Justice, not just against him, but against anybody who supported Trump. That's why the DOJ at the moment are being told to preserve their files, not to have any of them go missing, because having them go missing will be no excuse. The health department in the US is also being told the same thing by RFK Jr. It seems like RFK Jr. will be the man in charge of that department once he is ratified by the Senate. And so all of these names we're talking about, the Alex Joneses of the world, the Matt Gateses of the world, appointed to senior roles inside the Trump administration, all have to go before Senate select committees and be approved, if you like. If there was a race left that Trump hadn't won resoundingly, then that has changed in the last 24 hours. He has now definitely gained full control of the House of Representatives. He now has full control of the Senate. He has the presidency. He has every state governorship and control of every state legislature. That's what they talk about with a clean sweep. That means that Republicans control all of it. Now, what does that mean for bringing these people up and getting them certified to go into the jobs? Well, it means it's pretty much a rubber stamp. The Democrats will squeal like stuck pigs because they are stuck pigs. They'll rant and rave against appointments like Matt Gaetz, and they will try and bring up dirt on the likes of Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr., none of which will stick, because with the numbers, Trump will be able to ramrod through whatever he likes, provided all of those people play the game. And they would be stupid not to play the game. The entire reason they are in this position of power is because of Donald John Trump. No other reason. Not because they were startlingly good performers in the last round. And they know it. So they'll need to support Trump in every way going forward, because it is only with that level of support, that unequivocal balance of power in both houses of the federal government and control of both the governorship and the legislative councils of every state, that real change can be effected from your local council level up. It'll be very interesting to see how he does it, if he does it, how he gets to do it, because I have no doubt they'll be making more attempts to try and kill him. He sat with Joe Biden about 24 hours ago, a little under 24 hours ago at the White House. The traditional handover, if you like. Biden mumbled something about looking forward to helping him step into his role at the White House, and he had to go and change his diapers. Trump, like a boss, owned the joint. There was a lot of petty journalism, I'll call it, surrounding the fact that 4 years ago Trump didn't invite Biden to the White House because Trump didn't believe that the election had been won fairly. Watch this space. Watch this space, because that ratification of the electoral votes in 2020 is a very, very significant point in American history. It marks a significant and plainly evident time where the vast majority, including every Democrat and quite a number of Republicans, committed treason against the American people. And have no doubt Trump will make those people pay. As he has said, he will make pay those people in the health industry who forced, cajoled, jabbed the jab first, or forced or cajoled the jab into everybody. Those who discriminated against people who refused to take it. He's coming after everyone. And I said this on the day that he won the election. We are coming. And we are, all of us. Donald Trump will lead the way. America will start the ball rolling. But it is up to us. We could use a bit more money to do it with. Couldn't we all? That's where Jassara is meant to kick in. And this is where I start to get a little conflicted about Donald Trump, because the fiat system is dead. The US dollar is dead. The only place it has any worth at all is onshore in America. They're not going to be able to bring that back to life. Therefore, the system has to crash. Are they going to eke that out another 4 years? If so, why? I don't understand. It doesn't fit with the timelines that we've been shown and told to expect. Mind you, there's so much talk about Jassara. There's so much talk about blockchain, about crypto, and obviously Bitcoin going up and setting new records. I don't know what it is at the moment. It was over 75,000 the other day. That's US dollars. But there is no value in the US dollar. BRICS and all of those countries associated with BRICS seem to have died down a bit. The price of gold has dropped. The price of silver has dropped again. And that is to be expected. We sort of said that at the time. It goes in ups and downs, and if you want to ride that wave, you can make a lot of money out of it if you know what you're doing. But we were hoping for the big run on silver, particularly. I know you were, I know I was. Hasn't happened yet. Why hasn't it happened yet? Well, I asked Michael Engerman that from Ainsley Bullion today, and he said, why don't we have a talk about it? So Saturday morning, we're going to have a special chat with the CEO of Ainsley Bullion again. We did it a few weeks ago while his young bloke was playing cricket. So 9:30 Saturday morning Queensland time. It'll be 10:30 New South Wales and Victoria. It must be about 10 o'clock in South Australia, and Western Australia it'll be 2 hours earlier, so 7:30 or something like that. If you want to catch it live, obviously it'll be up on the Voice of Freedom website afterwards. But we'll have a chat with Michael Engerman from Ainsley Bullion on Saturday morning, and try and get to the bottom of what's going on with the market. Were we a bit exuberant and hopeful, thinking that everything was going to come crashing down? So far, the market hasn't come crashing down, the stock market I'm referring to. And if anything, it's been bolstered a little bit by Trump's re-election. So what's going on there? So that's coming up on Saturday morning. If you are remotely interested in learning a little bit more about the gold and silver market. you can always come to one of these events we're heading off to too. As I said, the event for my place, the big camp out, is happening just out of Echuca on the 29th, on 30th of November, 1st of December. And then a week later, we're off to Mount Gambier. Vince and I are going to be trekking around through Victoria or South Australia or both on our way to Mount Gambier. But we'll be there, arriving there on the 6th, I think it is. There's an event on the Friday night. Saturday, the 7th, there is a big event happening at Blue Lake. And then there's a huge market day on the 8th, which is the Sunday. So that's all happening in Mount Gambier. Look forward to seeing you down there. If you are part of the family, by all means, come up, say hi. Look forward to shaking your hand and congratulating you on getting this far. And that's really what we all should be doing at the moment. We should be patting ourselves on the back. I know in the last 2 weeks, I've really been feeling this whole business. I was pretty much ready to draw a line under it all after the election and wait and see what was going to happen. I expected what was going to happen faster, but it's been explained to me that it can't happen faster. The election, while it looks like it's been won, has not been ratified. That in itself is a process. And there are Democrats who are still working against the Constitution, who obviously don't have enough treason charges against them at the moment. The White Hats want to make sure. So they're giving them enough rope to hang themselves. And I suggest that that's probably going to go all the way till January the 6th, where Kamala Harris will either anoint the new president and the new administration, or they won't. I don't think there is going to be any kind of judgment regarding sentencing for crimes Trump has supposedly been found guilty for, that is paying money to Stormy Daniels. Not even sure that actually happened, but I guess, if you're going to pay for a girl, you've got to pay for the girl, don't you? And it is the oldest trade known to man, I'm pretty sure. Hookerdom, isn't it? I'm not saying that Stormy Daniels was working as a hooker or a call girl or a prostitute. I'm just saying anyone who wants to take money for it like that probably has a bit of an expectation. Maybe I'm dead wrong, but I just would have thought that'd be how it would work. I don't have a lot of experience with ladies of the night, so I'm not sure of how the transaction kind of works. But I figure there's money involved somewhere. And regardless of how big a porn or soft porn star you might be, I'm pretty sure you're not going to put your bits out there for nothing. You've figured out what they're worth, just like every other person on OnlyFans. Is that what it's called? OnlyFans? I got really confused about that because it was so hot out here the other day. I went looking for some way of cooling down the bus. Don't type in OnlyFans. It's a pretty weird Google search you get. Very weird.
Fuck you.
Good lad.
Yeah, go for it. Fuck it. Yeah.
Whew. All right. I'm going to go. You guys have yourself a good night tonight. And tomorrow will be Friday. I'll do my best to arrange a Friday free-for-all that may have a little somebody special joining us. Fingers crossed. I've been trying to get this person on for a couple of weeks, and we've been ducking and weaving time zones. So if it all comes off, I'll either be on live tomorrow night or I'll hopefully pre-record something with them late tomorrow afternoon that I can play tomorrow night if it comes off. If not, we'll just have to wait another week and see what happens. Be safe on the roads out there, folks. There are dickheads absolutely everywhere. Thank you to everybody who is sending me stuff for little Josie and for my arm. In fact, Sandy and Baz from the Donkey Sanctuary, can I ask you folks if you can help them at all? They need cash. If you can help them at all, they have sent me so many things for this wonderful little creature. And not just her, but the amount of stuff. I am looking around here at Australia Post bags and boxes and stuff that I've been receiving for days. There were 10 boxes for me there today. and bags and stuff. And it's all full of stuff usable for little animals that might be in some form of trauma. Thank you so much. So if you can help them with a few bucks, then the Good Samaritan Donkey Sanctuary could really use it. So they haven't asked me to mention that at all, but Sandy and Baz do some amazing work and travel basically the entire East Coast to look after donkeys. But these are people who stopped on the side of the road to check a donkey that they'd saved in Queensland and heard this strange little meowing noise. Neither of them, being cat people, didn't think too much about a strange little meowing noise other than, oh my God, there's a kitten out here somewhere. They found that kitten after searching around for about an hour, hour and a half. And then they spent another 3 hours looking to see if there were more there. What did they do with the kitten? Took it home. Now runs the house. And they weren't cat people at all. That gives you an idea of the kind of people that Sandy and Baz are. So if you can help out the Good Samaritan Donkey Sanctuary, then please go online, source them out, give them a donation. You can do that with us too. We're always grateful to receive them. And somehow I've got to fund my way down to Victoria. The bus isn't going to do it, so I'm going to need to hop on the big silver bird with no propellers. And it's probably going to be cheaper in the long run to do that. But I'd like to be able to give Vince a bit of petrol money for driving me around. And speaking of that, driving me around, I've got to get from Melbourne up to Echuca. So if you happen to have a spare bit in your car and you could take what will be a reasonably large suitcase, because I'm going to bring the Starlink with me. So Starlink will go in a suitcase and I'll carry my clothes in a small carry-on bag. But if you've got space, can you email me? carl@vofhq.com. I haven't rung Darren Bergworth to see whether or not he's got space, but I'm sure somebody from the My Place Frankston mob will be coming through and might be able to pull over if I've got the thumb out at the appropriate time. Reach out to me, carl@vofhq.com, if you can help. Vince is picking me up from Echuca, and then we're doing our little tour around Victoria and South Australia before winding up in Mount Gambier on the 6th, 7th and 8th. If you're going to be down that part of the world, would love to see you at that event at Blue Lake on the 6th. I'm not sure. I will find out where the event is on the evening of the 6th. It is a pub somewhere, but the name escapes me right now. I'll have to ring Brett and find that out. Look forward to talking to you soon, folks. Watch out for the dickheads on the road. They are everywhere.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's rock!